the European Parliament is engaged in here today with this debate and subsequent vote is nothing less than a massive exercise in deceit. A pack of lies are being told, and they are being told because you do not want the peoples of Europe to have the referendums that you promised them. It is the imposition of the will of the political class upon the citizens. We all know the truth. The Lisbon Treaty is the same as the EU Constitution. Exactly the same number of new competences. Exactly the same number of surrenders of veto. It is virtually identical in every regard. And it is constitutional because it gives this European Union a full legal personality, but worse still, it gives it the ability to amend itself in the future without having to refer to more intergovernmental conferences. It gives the EU the ability to legislate over literally every single aspect of our lives. I'm told, though, I shouldn't worry because the flag and the anthem have been dropped. Well, pull the other one. There's a great big flag at the front there. It's nonsense. It's all part of the lie. The truth is that you are too chicken to have a referendum. You don't want to hear the voice of the people, and now you resort to totalitarian means to get this treaty through. We heard Denny Cohn-Bendit say that those that oppose this treaty are mentally ill. We heard Mr Schulz say that those of us that objected to the sheer dishonesty of this project were behaving like Nazis back in the 1930s. Well, I think the ordinary, decent citizens of Europe will work out for themselves who the extremists are. And I must say, I wish the people of Ireland, I wish those that believe in democracy, every success in a couple of months' time, and I hope they send a large, resounding no, and I hope the voice of the peoples of Europe will be heard, not that of just you, the political class. And you may be complacent today, but you are increasingly being held in contempt.
Sarkozy's mini-treaty will now be around 3,000 pages instead of the 560 pages in the rejected constitution. The majority has the right to endorse the treaty, but you have no right to refuse a normal parliamentary scrutiny of this Lisbon Treaty. I have asked more than 700 serious questions on the interpretation of the different articles. You don't know the answers. You approve secrecy instead of transparency. You approve a reduction of parliamentary democracy instead of insisting on this Parliament's right to represent our voters, scrutinise on behalf of our voters, question the executive on behalf of the 500,000 citizens we represent. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, it's evening. It's been a very long day. We've been protesting in this Parliament, as you know, for months against the Lisbon Treaty, the Constitution, being pushed through without the referendums that previously people were promised. Well, it all came to a head today, because today was the day we actually debated the treaty and voted on the treaty. And it'll be no surprise to you that a very massive majority of this European Parliament voted to approve the treaty.
Vote. The vote is open. Has everyone voted? The vote is closed. 499 against, that's rejected.
We of course protested against this, and the theme for the day was that they were too chicken to hold a referendum. So in the chamber, the UKIP MEPs all wore these t-shirts saying, "Too chicken for a referendum," and outside we had some staff who were also protesting. And at one point during the protest, the staff were being surrounded by security guards and press cameras, and I was asked to come out and see what was going on. And I went out, and yeah, it was getting a bit heated, it was getting a bit aggressive.
Yes. But if I was to, say, be demonstrating in favour of the Constitution, I'd be in the bloody chamber and applaud it. But why are the rules applied differently to us?
But I will tell you this, from what I've seen in this place over the course of the last few months, they are becoming totalitarian in their instincts. They cannot abide, they cannot bear opposition of any kind. It looks like we're going to be denied a referendum, I'm afraid, on this constitutional treaty, which means what we've got to do as a party is to get ourselves ready for the European elections in June next year, which may be the...
Mr. Co-President Nigel Farage, Freedom and Democracy.
Well, good morning, Mr Van Rompuy. You've been in office for 1 year, and in that time the whole edifice is beginning to crumble. There's chaos. The money's running out. I should thank you. You should perhaps be the pin-up boy of the Eurosceptic movement. But just look around this chamber this morning. Just look at these faces. Look at the fear. Look at the anger. Poor old Barroso here looks like he's seen a ghost. You know, they're beginning to understand that the game is up, and yet in their desperation to preserve their dream, they want to remove any remaining traces of democracy from the system. And it's pretty clear that none of you have learned anything. You know, when you yourself, Mr Van Rompuy, say that the euro has brought us stability, I suppose I could applaud you for having a sense of humour, but isn't this really just the bunker mentality? You know, your fanaticism is out in the open. You talked about the fact that it was a lie to believe that the nation state could exist in a 21st century globalised world. Well, that may be true in the case of Belgium, who haven't had a government for 6 months, but for the rest of us, right across every member state in this union, and perhaps this is why we see the fear in the faces, increasingly people are saying, we don't want that flag, we don't want the anthem, we don't want this political class, we want the whole thing consigned to the dustbin of history. And we had the Greek tragedy earlier on this year, and now we have the situation in Ireland. Now I know that the stupidity and greed of Irish politicians has a lot to do with this. They should never ever have joined the euro. They suffered with low interest rates, a false boom and a massive bust. But look at your response to them. What they're being told, as their government's collapsing, is that it would be inappropriate for them to have a general election. In fact, Commissioner Rehn here said they had to agree their budget first before they'd be allowed to have a general election. Just who the hell do you think you people are? You are very, very dangerous people indeed. Your obsession with creating this euro state means that you're happy to destroy democracy. You appear to be happy for millions and millions of people to be unemployed and to be poor. Untold millions must suffer so that your euro dream can continue. Well, it won't work, because it's Portugal next. With their debt levels of 325% of GDP, they're the next ones on the list, and after that I suspect it will be Spain. And the bailout for Spain would be 7 times the size of Ireland, and at that moment all of the bailout money has gone. There won't be any more. But it's even more serious than economics, because if you rob people of their identity, if you rob them of their democracy, then all they are left with is nationalism and violence. I can only hope and pray that the euro project is destroyed by the markets before that really happens.